Hello there guys, what is going on? SonOfChelsea back here again for another episode of the Every Other Saturday podcast. Hope you're doing well and keeping safe wherever you're watching or listening to this. The full edition is in audio format as well. But we're going to be talking today of a brilliant guest. I've had this guest on several times on the channel. An amazing guy to speak to. He's a big inspiration to me in terms of my channel. And I love speaking to him about Chelsea and football because I think we have intelligent conversations. I think we delve deeper into the issues surrounding Chelsea and wider things as well. NiiNiiFC, Happy New Year. Welcome to the channel, mate. How are you doing?
Thanks, man. And thank you so much for that intro. Obviously, really humble me, man. And of course, always love talking football with you. And I'm really excited to be featured for today.
Absolutely, man. And as people can see on the title of the video, which you can watch on YouTube, but also on the podcast, going to be talking about predictions for 2021, with it being the new year, because I think a lot of the time we talk about football in very short-term sort of beliefs and principles and thinking about the next game. But I think speaking about the year as a whole, I think is more interesting. So sort of want to get some of your predictions that you think are going to happen in this 12-month period for Chelsea FC, and then we can sort of debate them and discuss them, because I think so much can happen, especially at a crazy club like Chelsea. As we know, it's predictably unpredictable. Many things can change. I mean, think about where we sat at the start of 2020 with Chelsea, and think about all the amazing signings we had in the summer. I don't think any of us could have predicted how amazing that summer was. And of course, lockdown and Project Restart, fans not being in the stadium. So we'll get into that. So firstly, just one of your big predictions for 2021 for Chelsea. Let's get into it.
I think my first one is that we are going to get Champions League qualification come the end of the season. I think that's the most important one.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And I think that it's interesting to me in terms of the way we get Champions League football, when you're thinking about that, in terms of your standards for this season and where you want Chelsea to be come May. In terms of what way are you looking for Champions League qualification? Do you think it's going to be sort of the scrappy way we've been doing it over recent years, where it gets really pressurised in the remaining games, or do you think it's going to be a little bit more comfortable this year?
To be honest, I just think, for me, just based on how this season's been, I think COVID has affected every team. And I know it's a popular excuse that, if it affects every team, somehow that makes everything null and it gets cancelled. But I don't think that's the case. I think the league table has been reflected by that. Looking at Manchester United and their rise to the top, of course, it's really been ups and downs. And of course, they played against a lot of teams in the bottom half of the table recently, and that's why they're now currently on the top of the table. But considering the difficult games they have coming up, I can imagine them not picking up points. And looking at the games that Man City have, they've got an easy running. I can imagine them going to the top. So I just feel like, because the preparation isn't perfect for every team, and I think every team's been forced to have to adapt more times than they wanted to do this season, I don't really mind if it's like a comfortable qualification or not. I just think as long as we qualify, hopefully for next season, the guys will understand the tactics and we can push on.
Do you think the teams who are sort of overachieving at the moment, it feels like from like preseason expectations, so like Aston Villa, Everton, Southampton, maybe not Leicester, because I think we expect them to be up there now based on last season, but those teams, do you think they're going to start to fall in the second half of the season, because they've got some games in hand in front of Chelsea as well?
Exactly. I think that's definitely not going to help them, because I think as we saw ourselves in December, when you have so many games coming thick and fast during this period, it is really difficult. And do these clubs have the squad depth to be able to rotate with a different team or bring in other guys? I'm not too sure. But I just think that this is one of the first seasons where, by now, who's kind of the clear favourite, or who the clear favourites are to win the league. And I still don't have that information about who is confidently going to be securing this or getting these positions come the end of the season.
Yeah, it feels this year, because it's so unique, because we have more game cancellations now, because games are being shifted around, and as we've seen, there's been teams like Man United who had difficult starts to the year but now flying a bit. Chelsea started the year quite well, but then obviously faltered in recent weeks. It does feel like it's going to be a bit more topsy-turvy, and I still do think, and I maintain this, that I think the bigger squads, like they usually do, but more so this season, fatigue I think is going to play a massive part in the remaining games. You spoke about Champions League qualification, and it's interesting now, because when we made our pre-season predictions about the Champions League of where we felt we would go, we didn't know who we would be facing in the round of 16, which of course is Atletico Madrid. A really difficult opponent, probably the toughest one we could have got. I remember making a video around the time, and it was like the one team I didn't want to play. Luckily, no Diego Costa reunion this time, but What do you think about that game? Because I think it's massive in the current context of Chelsea, and it's a real test, not only for Lampard, but just for Chelsea, because we haven't passed the round of 16 since 2014, so it's massive for Chelsea.
I think it's going to be a massive test. I think that it's going to be quite an even game. I think the quality of both teams is kind of similar. And yeah, I mean, even to think of predictions right now, who knows what's going to happen as we get closer to the game? What if someone gets an injury? What if João Felix can't play? What if anything happens? What if Atletico Madrid's form kind of collapses as they're trying to get Dembele to play in the team? Who knows what could happen? But I just think based on the information we know right now, this game can really go either way. If we didn't win this, would this be something against Lampard's? It depends on who the person is, but for me, I've seen managers of more experience not get us through the stage against teams that you're hoping we could have, because we had, Hazard and other players like that in the team at the time. So Atleti, for me, could be one of those significant games where if we did go through and win, that could be the confidence that some people in the fan base need to see from Lampard to really trust him. Because I think because of that lack of trust, every time someone's forming an opinion and getting to a conclusion, it really is more centered around the negative aspects on what we're not doing compared to seeing the things we are doing and how we can grow and maintain them.
I think the context of that tie, to me, if Chelsea did win it, I think it would be massive for Lampard tactically to go get one over on Diego Simeone. I mean, this is not only a very good defensive manager, but just in terms of Champions League experience, that Atletico team know how to get through Champions League ties. Like Liverpool last year was a prime example of this, right? And that's my concern. So when we're talking about winning or losing a game and the quality of the players at Atletico, and think about the emotion if we win it and the feeling if we win it, it would be massive, wouldn't it? I think it would be seen as a massive win for Lampard. So absolutely. FA Cup, of course, we got through the third round against Morecambe. We now know the next two ties if we win it, which will be Luton at home in a couple of weeks' time, but also Norwich or Barnsley away in the fifth round. So Chelsea have, and I don't want to speak too soon in Tempe here, but potentially a decent run to get to the last eight. And once you get to the last eight, you expect it to be a very difficult game usually. What do you think about the FA Cup? Because to me, I think it's a great opportunity for Frank to win a piece of silverware, for Chelsea to get a trophy, and a bit of redemption from last year.
Yeah, I believe so. Of course, the FA Cup in this country, historically, it's known for upsets because the smaller teams, this is like their only time to test himself against a big club. And, let's not forget that Bradford City game where we lost 4-2 at home against them, one of the craziest, most shocking FA Cup games in recent memory. And I just believe that Frank, he wants to win something. He has ambition. I think that's why he feels pretty strong teams, because I think historically, in our recent history, we do respect the FA Cup because we want to always get a trophy when we can. So hopefully we get through. Championship teams, you're thinking we've got enough in our locker to do that, and then who knows who comes in the rounds after that.
Thinking over the 12 months, not just about this season, I want to look at maybe some players that you think are going to be massive for Chelsea, not just this season, the rest of the season, but also the start of next season. You're obviously thinking about some of those attacking players who will stand out if they score goals or create assists. I'm thinking about the likes of Hakim Ziyech. I'm thinking about Kai Havertz, Timo Werner, Pulisic, Mason Mount. Who are you looking out for this year as you really think this could be their big year to sort of make 2021 sort of massive for them?
I think there's three players I'm looking at. One is Hakim Ziyech. I really think that, based on all the articles we've read on what the players are saying about him, based on the feeling around him at the club too, he really is seen as one of the leaders, one of the special guys, and I think he proves that when he plays. He always provides something. He takes responsibility. He makes those moments happen. And as we saw, another cross to the far post for Havertz to knock down, and then find Timo Werner. So I think maybe do good things in the team. Ziyech's one of the reasons for that. And I think for my second players has to be Kai Havertz. Understandable why things have been difficult. I do feel like people have taken out of context the reasons why he's played so many different positions, not because Lampard doesn't know how to use them, but because, things like at the start of the season, coming to the Premier League, we had no pre-season. Players had to, every team had to find their form and fitness in the first few games. Obviously, to introduce him to a new league with so much intensity like this one, you would probably start him out wide for the first few games so he can grow into the league, understand the tempo, the pace, and not have him too involved immediately because with young guys too. Because even though Havertz came for big money, you still got to know how to develop a young player and think about the long term for them. So I think with Havertz, he's shown glimpses of his brilliance. We've seen some genius passes, that you can't really coach that type of stuff. His movement is incredible. This position Lampard's using him in, I think over time, people are going to start to understand it and see it completely differently and then ignore all the criticisms that they've had before it. And I just think that Havertz traditionally is someone that grows in the second half recently. And coming to this club now, he's got a real opportunity to be a consistent world-class player over a season instead of over half a season. So, of course, big eyes on Havertz. And I think for me, I have to look at Callum Hudson-Odoi. I'm looking at him now. I'm just seeing how the mentality's clicked in, and just reading his interviews, seeing how the club's promoting him. There's really like a big push to, push the understanding behind how the players are feeling, how they're growing, and then just expressing bits of their game. Like Callum speaking about how he gets past his man, and the tactical side. You're hearing a lot more from the club's media now compared to what you were ever hearing before. So I don't think that's by coincidence. Of course, the guy went through a lot last season. I think the fan base was a bit harsh at times, a bit too impatient, personal things in his life as well. And naturally, that's going to affect the quality of how you play your football. So massive credit. Everyone has always had faith in him. Everyone rates him. Callum knows his ability. And just hearing him speak about how it's clicked in, training reflects your performance. I mean, we've already heard Lampard say this over, how many decades, to be honest. So those three guys, man, Ziyech, Kai, Hudson-Odoi, let's see what they're going to do.
I think that they all make strong cases, and I think that at least for the rest of this season, you hope that all of them can find form and find minutes under Lampard, stay away from injury and suspension. I think Hudson-Odoi is a massive one because I think, as I've been saying recently on my channel, I think this is his moment to break into the first team and take his chance. I want to talk about surprise player of the year for you, because I look back to 2020, and for me, although it was in the first part of the year, Billy Gilmour was sort of the standout surprise player who made an impact, even if it was for a short period of time before he got injured. He was just one of those players I didn't expect to get that much prominence in Lampard's team.
Yeah.
Looking at maybe there was so much excitement last weekend, even though they didn't play. Some of these young players training with the first team now: Sunset Bell, Lewis Bate, Henry Lawrence, Tino Livramento, Tino Andrin. Do you think there could be any surprise players, or it may not have to be come from the academy? It could be maybe fringe players in the first team. Don't look like they're in the first team picture, but maybe come the end of 2021 they actually are.
I think that's a really interesting one. It's going to be interesting to see who that player could be. Considering, my thoughts on the fringe players is that I feel like maybe they could be a tier below maybe the first team ones, in the sense that they suit maybe different styles of football compared to what we're trying to do. And I think sometimes when we revert to them, I think it's no coincidence that, the football isn't on the same level as what we normally see with other guys. So it is hard for me to find one on the top of my head. Fringe players, I guess, can you say guys like Hudson-Odoi or Pulisic are? I mean, who knows as the season goes on. But from the academy, it would be nice for Lampard to be able to turn to some of these guys too. I do think that maybe one reservation that I would have, even though I understand completely why it's hard, is obviously I want to see the young guys play. That's what Lampard's always been about. Last season, when we had times of difficulty, Gilmour came through and we got the win against Everton, Liverpool, and that momentum took us all the way until obviously lockdown came. So I look at someone like Lewis Bate. I think this guy's got something in his locker. I look at someone like Andrin too. I think obviously that he's training with the first team and remaining with us. Who knows what he could bring in midfield. But I think right now that's to be more of a focus on the first team, because every game we have, every training session has to be about making the tactics for the first team better, and then the other guys will just follow through naturally, in my opinion.
I also wonder about some lone players as well, like Ethan Ampadu, Mark Gurhey, Conor Gallagher. Those ones are easy to forget about because, of course, they're elsewhere at the moment. Mark Gurhey, for me, is a very interesting one because he continues to get rave reviews at Swansea, and everyone's bigging him up, and it seems I was listening to Simon Johnson, I think it was on Alex Goldberg's podcast, and they're sort of monitoring Guehi's development, and he really impressed me when he came in for Chelsea. Even in a short space of time at the start of Lampard's first season, I believe it was in the League Cup, and he had some really good performances. He had a performance against Man United where like he was up against like Marcus Rashford and Anthony Martial, and despite Man United winning that game, their 2 goals came from a penalty and an amazing free kick. In terms of open play, I think he really dealt well alongside Kurt Zouma that night. So I wonder, do you think Guehi could be a player that maybe gets some minutes?
I definitely think so, and it's funny that you brought up the Man United game, because when I watched that game, I remember even doing my review afterwards, I really singled out Guehi for his performance, because it wasn't just how he was passing the ball, it was the way in which he was passing it. There was like technique behind it, the effortlessness, and just how the ball was kind of gliding on the fields as he was passing it, all bobbling up and down and stuff like that, and plays with a lot of composure, I feel like this is someone that we can do something with, 100%, how he passes the ball. I kind of get Kimpembe vibes in the sense of how he plays. I think Guehi can go all the way, and guys like Conor Gallagher, I think it's a great education for him at West Brom. I'm not expecting him to get 10 goals then. You can't when you're just, you've got to defend so much. But in his career, as he looks back, he's going to benefit from understanding the other side, the work rate you need. And, it's kind of natural for guys who are starting their career so young to learn these types of facets of their game, because that helps them in the future. So honestly, the amount of talent we have, even talent in the academy, Mbuyamba, he's a guy who's he's just recently come back from injury. Big hopes around him, man. Just seeing how he plays the ball, his height, his aerial ability, he could be a dark horse in the future too. I mean, when you have an academy like ours, I'm producing quality that, back in the day, these guys would get loan moves in small leagues in Sweden, or League 2 teams, League 1 teams. Now it's straight to the Championship in their first ever professional seasons, and straight to other European leagues. So that's the quality that's just been boosted over these past few years alone. It's just outstanding, and it puts us in a really good place. So let's hope that, for me, these tactics get on point, Lampard reverts back to his philosophy, and get these guys in the team, in my opinion.
Absolutely, and probably lastly on this prediction front, which is probably the hardest one to predict because so much can change in terms of transfers. I think we can safely predict this upcoming summer transfer window is not going to be as crazy as the last one, because we spent a lot of money last time, and we've filled some very key positions for the long term with young players that are coming into their prime. So there's not much to do. But if you were to say there's going to be one big transfer this summer for Chelsea, who would you go for?
It's hard. I think it's either between a defender or a midfield player. I'd probably have to go for Rice, in the sense that, the pursuit for him has been consistent for such a long time that I can't imagine we stop, especially when he's even gone to a different level this season. But I actually do think that we are going to do more business too in the summer. I think it depends on things like COVID and obviously the post-Brexit rules as well. But we need to replace some of the squad players and sign players that suit the system. I think when you look at guys like Alonso, there's a reason why you don't see him play anymore. With Emerson, Lampard's ideally wants a guy that can be like, do what Ben does. He can do both instead of having to focus on one part of the game because he can't cross. I think it's these small facets that makes it hard to, find that consistency even when guys aren't about. Let Liverpool prove it this season, where injuries to key players did not affect their momentum at all, because the guys that replace them could basically, fulfill the tactical side of the game, which is important for me. So I think Declan Rice is a major one. I think we'll get a big defender too. So 2 big signings. And I think other players and signings will come depending on who we sell and the squad guys we come to replace them. So, we still got some more work to do, man. We still got some more business to do. And, it's going to be another exciting summer. And I have to say, I'm tooting my own horn a little bit, you guys, forgive the arrogance. But I do got to say, before this summer period came, last year, I said the entire season, expect us to have one of the biggest windows we've had in a long time. And we saw it in the end. So next season is still going to be another sexy window.